Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this afternoon's session about urban architecture and design with Plan-it.ie. Welcome to National Careers Week in Greater Manchester. We've got a series of 19 events over 5 days, finishing on the 5th of March. My name is Michelle Wheeler, and I work for the Greater Manchester Combined Authority, and I'll be hosting today's session. This week, as you may know, is part of the wider Meet Your Future campaign, which was launched by the Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham, in April 2019. Meet Your Future offers experiences of the workplace and encounters with employers to young people across Greater Manchester in a variety of different business environments to help you learn about different roles and careers and gain first-hand experience of the world of work. This week is an opportunity for you to learn more about how different roles and jobs across Greater Manchester use all those subjects you study in school and college on a day-to-day basis, and the positive impact they can bring at such a difficult time for you. Thanks for attending this afternoon's session. We've got 45 minutes to showcase what urban design is and how you can work in the sector. We've got a presentation from Caleb, who's an urban designer at Planit.ie. There will be some time at the end of the session for a Q&A. Hopefully you should all be able to see the chat function on the side of the screen. Please use it to ask any questions that come to mind, and we can do our best to answer them at the end. You should also have received a session card ahead of today's talk with a pre-task to complete around researching the company, and that should help you give some context. At the end, we can talk about the project that Caleb has set for you to learn more about urban design. Okay, Caleb, are you ready to share your screen and get talking about what you do?
I'm indeed, yes. Yeah. So, yeah, shall I share now?
Go for it, mate.
Okay, I'm just going to get into full screen mode. How's that?
Looking great, thank you.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, firstly, thank you all for joining. It's lovely to have you here, and lovely for you to have taken an interest in urban design. So I'm going to start with a phrase, which is essentially what we do as urban designers. So we try and create better futures through collective design and create careers for saving the planet and being a force for good. Now, I'll break that down for you over the course of the next 45 minutes so that you can really understand what it is we do and how we do it. So firstly, I'm going to tell you who I am and who Planit.ie are. So my name's Caleb Jones. I'm an urban designer. I work for Planit.ie, who are based in Altrincham, and we work all around Manchester and the UK. A bit about my background. So when I was your age, or in secondary school, I was mainly focused on humanities. They were my strengths. So I studied geography, English and history at A-level. And then I went on to university to study a master's in geography and town planning. An undergraduate in geography and town planning. So post this, I led on to do a master's degree in urban design. There's a lot of things and ways that you can go into urban design. So my personal experience was that I was strong in and studied humanities subjects at school, but similarly, there are other ways and avenues to go into the subject. So a lot of my colleagues, for example, are very design focused. So they were really strong in things like D&T, design and technology at school, and IT and art. So it's a very broad subject, and there's many avenues into it. In terms of Planit.ie, we are a collective design practice. And basically what this means is we create places. And by places, what we mean is pretty much everything. So this could be, for example, the street that you live on, or it could be an entire new village. We work on a broad spectrum of projects and along a broad spectrum of scales. So what I really implore you to think about here is think about the place that you live in. Think about your house and your street and your journey to work, or the park that you go to play in at the weekend, or you know, even the school grounds within which you learn. All of this is designed by someone. All of these places have been thought about by somebody. To an extent, they are all designed. And that is basically what we do. We're the people that think about those things, the little things that matter to the everyday person. So what do we do? Well, I've pretty much just given you a bit of an insight into that already, but and apologies for the fuzziness of these photos. This is a very large presentation with lots of photos in, so we've had to reduce the quality on some of them. But this is an example of the kind of place that we would create. So this is at the lower end of that scale I'm talking about. So this is a specific public square in Manchester. So you'll see we've designed this in terms of the materials that have been put in, the benches that have been used, the way people move through this space, the way the building is orientated. All of these things have been considered to create this place, the way the lighting works. So there's a lot of considerations, but this is on the smaller end of the spectrum. In terms of urban design, this we work at a much broader scale. So we look at creating new towns, new villages, you know, places where 6,000, 10,000 people are going to live. So there's, as I say, there's a whole spectrum and a scale of projects that we work on. So where do we operate? Obviously, I've already said we are based out of Altrincham, but more recently we've opened offices in Liverpool, in Leeds and in London. So we actually work on projects around the country and around the globe even. So we've worked on projects in Copenhagen, in Amsterdam, but we mainly operate in the UK, and that's in the most part is in cities and in town cities and actually in new areas on the edges of towns and cities where new settlements will be created, so new towns and new villages. So pretty much we work everywhere. And this is probably the most important part of the whole thing, which is why do we do it? So in the most part, we design places for people and we design places for the environment. So what does that really mean? We aim to bring joy to people's lives. The places that we design are the places that people will live in, that will walk around, that they'll basically spend their everyday lives in. So it's really important that the places we design are fit for purpose, are fit for people, and are going to create a more enjoyable experience for people's everyday lives. We enjoy working as a team. And there's a small picture in the background there of us as a team when we went surfing down in up in Snowdonia in Wales. But we enjoy working as a team, and that's what gets us out of bed every day. We like to collaborate, we like to work together, we like to understand each other's views and learn from each other in order to design better places. No one person ever has the right answer. A group of people can often come up with the right answers working together. We like to work with existing communities. So if you think about what we do, we design new places or we try and improve existing places. So really important to that process is working with people, working with communities, understanding what they want from our designs. Again, we don't have the answers. The people that live there or that are going to live in these places and use them, they have the answers. So it's really important that we engage with those people. As I've said, we like to work as a team, we like to collaborate. One thing that's probably worth noting is urban design and urban architecture and landscape architecture. All of these things are a part of a much bigger sector, which is construction. So we collaborate with all sorts of professionals, including engineers, including architects. We are one small part of a much bigger picture and a much bigger sector. And I'll go into a bit more detail on how we work with these people later, but broadly, yes, we are one small part and we have to collaborate with several different sectors and people. We like to add value. So we like to add value to the places that we design. So again, moving on from those kind of core values, these are our company values. So this is why we get out of bed in the morning to go to work. This is what makes us tick and makes us work. So we take real pride in the places that we create. And in terms of pride, it's quite an important aspect because ultimately the places that we design and the visions that we come up with and the ideas that we come up with when we are planning new places, ultimately they will be seen, people will use them. You know, there's a tangible output to what we do. And it's not like, you know, a document is created and it sits in a library shelf forever. It's more than that. It's about it's something that people will see, and that's really important to us because we designed it. It's about responsibility. Again, we have a lot of responsibility as designers. Sorry, I've just had something flash up on my screen and I'm just going to try and get rid of it. There we go. It's about responsibility. And this goes back to that point. We create places for people that people will use, and we have a responsibility to the people that use these spaces and use these places and live in these places, to make them enjoyable, to make them easy to use, to make them fun and beautiful. And not just that, on a grander scale, we also have a responsibility to create better places for the planet, places that ultimately are going to help tackle climate change. They're going to help tackle the climate crisis, and that is a huge part of what we do. We have to create places that not only work now, but are going to work in 20 years time, 30 years time, 100 years time. We have to be curious. We have to want to know about what people want. We have to want to know about how the world works around us. In order to design places for people, you have to understand people. We have to be brave. No one ever designed a great place thinking, I'm just going to do the same as someone else did. No, we have to be brave. You have to think outside the box. You have to really, really think, what's going to change this place? And has it been done before? Has the things that have been done before, are they the right things? You really have to challenge what's already been done and look for innovation. You have to be sensitive. And you have to ensure that the place is going to work for the people that use it. We have to think about the function. I'm going to skip through these, but a big part of this is about understanding art and about understanding detail. Art is in everything that we do and every scale we work at. So if you have to, it's not just about understanding places and people, but it's also having to understand what's going to make a place beautiful. And in turn, with that beauty comes a greater experience of that place. I'm going to skip through these. So I'm next going to talk you through an example of one of our projects and how we as a company came together across our range of scales and our work to really change a place. Now, I'll just take a little sip. As I've said, we're based in Altrincham, and we've had the fortune of being able to essentially redesign and rethink Altrincham as a place. So basically how I'm going to do this is I'm going to talk you through our approach to how we contributed to the change that's occurred in Altrincham over the past 10 years, and how us as designers have made that process happen. How our approach to this project specifically has created a new place, essentially, from a place that already existed. So what happened to Altrincham? I'm going to talk you through these elements. So I'm going to talk you through its history. I'm going to talk you through what happened before we got involved in it. I'm going to talk you through our approach, so the urban design approach, how we actually do our work, and then and in that how I analyze places to understand them, and then I'm going to talk you through the results. So I'm going to show you what we did and then how that's changed the place. So Altrincham's heritage. Altrincham has a rich history, a rich cultural history, and is an old market town. So it's located along key old Roman routes, which made it an obvious stop point before reaching Manchester, between Manchester and Chester, for exchange of goods, for exchange of ideas. So that's what created what the town that is today, and we still see a lot of these kind of evidence of this marketplace history in the built environment that we see today, in the halls, in the market halls, and in the streets. And I think as a place, Altrincham takes great pride in this history. Its architecture is still very much celebrated, and one of the key kind of assets of the town is that its people really celebrate this history and identify with it. With it being an old market town, Altrincham's history and current and today is very much an independent history. So it's a town built on independent businesses, on people with independent ideas. It's a local place, and by local we mean Altrincham acts as a local centre to its wider suburb. So it's the heart of the wider community, and it's a place for people to come and congregate and to shop, to eat, to drink, and to relax. It's the heart of the wider community. So our involvement in Altrincham, and specifically in this project, occurred in 2014. So in 2014, we were asked to have a look at Altrincham and to really think about how we would change it. It was deemed to be a ghost town at the time, a place that had declined over the course of the last 20 or 30 years to becoming a place where there was lots of empty shops. There was lots of graffiti in the streets. People didn't really use it as they should do. It wasn't a place for people. It had become a place for ghosts. So I'm going to flick through some of the images of what Altrincham looked like in 2014. So it has a high street, obviously, and some new development in the high street had already occurred. So the creation of new retail units along the high street, the creation of big box retail, so huge retail outlets that kind of are important to a place, but certainly aren't the same as how that place used to be. They don't chime with its heritage. We talked about that element of independence, of being a market town, and this is a little bit different to that. One of the key things about Altrincham in 2014 was that it was dominated by cars. All of its streets were dominated by cars. This discourages people from using these streets, from using these places. I mean, you guys will know from your walks to school or your weekends out that it's pretty hard to cross a road. And that's because there's cars there. Cars go fast. Cars are dangerous. Cars create quite an unsafe and an unsound and really unenvironmental environment for people to be in. And this was one of the key features of Altrincham before us as designers became involved in the process of change. Again, one of the main streets through the town, completely dominated by cars. You'll notice small pavements and really hard surfaced roads and dominated by cars. Again, we're looking at an area where, you know, lots of blank places, so places where there's no overlooking from shops. There's lots of barriers to people moving through the space. For example, how would you get through this space in a wheelchair? Question mark. So just starting to look at some of the issues that we thought were needed to be addressed in Altrincham before we got involved. As you can see, lots of empty retail units along the street. So what was our approach? How did we tackle this project as urban designers and landscape architects? So these are some of our broad considerations for how we look at a place and how we look to understand a place before we really get involved in changing it. So these are kind of the broad overarching considerations that we have before we start every single project. So the first, as I've discussed, is people. We must understand how people use spaces, what people want. The second is location. So we have to understand the specific location. We have to understand the context in which we work. Design must respond to the things that are already there. It's not a broad brush exercise. It must understand what's going on already, what the architecture of the place is like, how people use it, what the issues are, what the strengths are. Every place is different, is what I'm saying. We have to understand activity. Again, linked back to people. We have to understand how people use places. If we don't understand how people use places, we can't come up with a solution for people. We have to understand culture in order to understand how a place could change. We have to understand how people work in that specific location. It goes back to that L in the place. It's about understanding that every place is different and that all people are different. It's about understanding the geography of the place. Again, and one of the key points to our work is understanding the environment. So understanding the environment that is there now and how it contributes to climate change and global warming, and understanding how we can make that place more sustainable, how we can make it tackle global warming and tackle climate change. You have to understand how the place works, what the current environment is, and how we can make a place better in terms of the environment. And we have to understand scale. And by scale, I mean, and it goes back to how we work as a company. We work along a spectrum of scales. So one part of our work would be looking at a specific street, for example, and how that street is designed. Whereas another part of our work might be looking at an entire new town, understanding how all of the streets work together, how cars and people move through the streets, how certain parts of a new town might need to look, and how certain parts of a new town might need to look different to understand difference. So it's really key to us that we work along different scales and understand the scale of the place and the scale of the change that we need to make. And that makes places. So these are the overarching considerations. So this is the kind of things that we'd look at right at the beginning of every single project that we approach. So in terms of Altrincham, and in terms of any project that we start with, I think the first thing that we do is we need to understand the place that we're going to redesign or we're going to intervene into. So a big part of that is understanding the assets of a place. What makes it work? What are the strengths of it? What are this town's strengths? So I've already talked about the strong independent sector. So understanding that this is a market town and it still has that heritage. It still has market buildings. It still has markets, and these are things that people are drawn to. These are things that people want to visit. We talked about that independent business and independent sector. So Altrincham always has a history for and still has today a strong independent sector. It has a strong independent businesses. This is about places that people want to come out and eat in the evening. This is about making a place that people want to come and shop in. It's about these pull factors that draw people to a place. It has small spaces in Altrincham, so secret gardens and secret courtyards, linked to the heritage. So again, looking at these places, finding them, understanding what pulls people into this town, what we're going to base our change around, what we're going to tell people is this place about. What is this place about? It has beautiful historic architecture and beautiful historic buildings. It has a range of pubs, has a range of bars and restaurants, all set within a historic and heritage setting. And again, it's always about thinking what exists now that we can work with. What do we want to keep? What do we want to work with? What works well? The other element of that my photos don't really cover is you have to understand also what doesn't work. So these pictures all show the assets of a place, the things that really make a place beautiful and that are specific to it, that really make it shine. The other end of the spectrum there, and what I touched upon earlier, is those issues that we find. So we know that this place is kind of dominated by cars. So although we have a lot of these assets, it's really difficult for people to move to them and to cross roads to get from one place to the other. They have to cross the road, for example. The streets aren't made for people to sit in. So it's not just about understanding those positives, but it's really about understanding the negatives. And in doing that, that's where we really start to understand the place and how that place works. So once we've looked at the place and we've gone out to understand it, we need to make a plan. So in terms of how we would initially understand this place and analyze the place, we'd go out walking. So it's as simple as that. We'd print off a map and we'd take it out and we'd walk around and we'd really look at what's happening there. So we'd look at how the buildings work, how the streets look. We'd talk to people in the street. We'd ask them about what they want from a place, or how do they feel this place works for them. And on the map that we printed, we quite simply mark on with a pen. We quite simply mark on where these existing assets are and where these weaknesses occur. So it's as simple as that, really. That's how we understand it. So that's how we physically analyze a place. The other side of that is the non-physical. So we have to understand its history. And how do we do that? Well, in the most part, we read. We have to sit down at a desk. We have to use the internet. We have to use books in order to understand the history of the place, the culture. So there's two types of research and analysis that we do. There's the physical, which is going out, walking the streets, understanding the people. And there's the non-physical, which is sitting at a desk and researching. So once we've done all of this analysis and research, this is where we really have to start thinking about how we are going to communicate this and understand the place properly. So we have to make plans. Now this, as an urban designer, is our weapon of choice, basically, the map, the plan. So as you can see in the bottom here, we've written strengths. So once we've gone out and done this research, we then have to map this. We have to make it a spatial entity. So we have to draw plans and maps and diagrams to show where these things are. So as we've got here, the strengths of the place. So some of the strengths that we found in Altrincham was that it's a very permeable place. So you can walk down the high streets and you can move from place to place. It has good transport connections. So it has a Metrolink, for example. So it's well connected to Manchester and to the wider suburbs. It has a long strategic bus route which takes you into Manchester, so it's well connected to the city and the suburbs around it. It's easy for people to get to. As you can see in the bottom left diagram, we've started to map where some of these land use and cultural assets are. So we know it's got a strong retail core, it's got a sports centre, cinema, shops, big supermarkets. So this is the process through which we start to really understand the place spatially. So we've gone out, we've looked, we've seen, we've talked to people, and now this is the process where we think, okay, how do we record this evidence? How do we make it understandable for others? How do we communicate these ideas and these thoughts that we've picked up? I'm going to flick through. So again, you can start to see how we've analysed the strengths of the place. So we've located that the town centre as a whole has close proximity to green assets, so parks and green neighbourhoods, and how the historic elements of the town still remain today. So this is our process. This is our tool. Basically, we have to record this in maps. We also map the weaknesses, so where the streets don't work and where barriers to movement, as I discussed earlier, where those streets are that really don't encourage people and place. And we have to map the opportunities, and this is the start of our kind of our visionary process. So the next step, where we really look at the vision of a place and what it's going to be, we have to bring all of that analysis together and map the opportunities. So what are the bits of the town where we know we can start to make a change? And I'll flick through these briefly, but this is our overall vision and opportunities plan. And as you can see, we start to put photos of places that already exist that work really well, that are relevant to this place. So it's a case of mapping these opportunities and then showing photos and imagery for what the place could be. I'm going to flick through these, but you can see lots of photography of how we want the place to be. again, as I say, the weapon of choice for the urban designer is the diagram. It's how we map and understand all of these things that we found in our research. So the final part of our process, we've understood the place, we've understood the people, we've mapped it all. The next bit is the fun bit, and it's about what is this place going to be? What do we want it to be? And usually this is underpinned by one big statement, one goal. And for Altrincham, this was to make an Altrincham that people make it an attractive place to live, visit, shop, invest and enjoy. So it's about how Altrincham is going to bring people back to it. It's become a ghost town, and we're going to stop that. We're going to make it a place people want to come. So this is a brief overview of that. So in every kind of vision or master plan that we produce, we have to understand the assets, and then we create a vision and a strategy before looking at how the process through which this is actually going to be delivered. How is this place going to be constructed? So usually we create a big plan as part of the vision. So this is about, again, creating a spatial vision for this place. So where are we going to make the change is the key. It's about that big, wider scale idea. So we've understood all of these different elements of the place, and now we need to say, right, once we've understood this, how does this place come together as a future place? So this is bringing those opportunities together in a big spatial plan. And to give you an idea of what this diagram is showing, this is the whole town centre. So although it looks like a very small space, actually this is a very big place. You know, it takes probably 5 to 10 minutes to walk around all of the edges of these colours. But you can see we break spaces down to what they're going to become. So what's this part of the town going to be? What's this part of the town going to be? It's about looking at it at a strategic scale, the whole thing. And this is about how we kind of communicate these ideas. So we often do a lot of hand sketches, 3D diagrams to show that to kind of accompany this 2D plan. We'll look at drawing 3D visions for how these places are going to be, and we'll use colour to show maybe where new buildings could go and where new streets could be improved for pedestrians, and where new connections could be made from one place to another. So the hand-drawn 3D diagram is something we often and regularly use to communicate the vision. And again, we do a lot of drawing and hand sketching, which really helps us communicate to the people, to the clients that we work for, how this place will look in the future. As I've said previously, we really have to understand people. And as part of every project that we do, a big part of that is listening to people, engaging them in order to inform what we eventually suggest doing. So as part of every plan, we'd go through a process of showing our ideas to the people that live there. So we'd normally set up in a place, so a town hall, for example, or a shop in the town, and really talking about what our ideas are and what they feel about them. And once we have people's ideas, we then take those away and rethink our ideas that we had originally come up with in the vision. So identifying the catalysts. So this is about, once I've shown you through, and I talked earlier, this is the big vision. So this is now where we start to break down that vision into specific areas of the town. So thinking which specific areas can we change that are going to have the biggest impact. So in Altrincham, this was the lower Market Street and the Market House. So as you can see, it's a fairly derelict back alley, which you know doesn't encourage people to walk down. I don't know about you guys, but I wouldn't have wanted to walk down that street late at night. So what we actually thought is this could be something different. This could be something that people want to come to. It's very close to the market, and it could become a more pedestrian friendly place that people want to eat or drink in and walk down. So this was the before. This was our idea, so our proposal, the vision for this space. So that's before. This is what we thought could happen. And this kind of shows you how these things actually work. Like these things happen. So our vision for places start to become real. So this is the after. So this is how the place looks today. This is the lower market in Altrincham. So this is what it looked like before. And this is what it looks like now. So places for people to sit and eat and walk, and places for independent businesses to thrive. So it's gone from being what is a derelict market street to what is a brand new place for people to live in and enjoy. And again, I'll talk you through some of the before and afters. So again, if you look at this is before we became involved in Altrincham. So it's a dead space where it's only made for cars, really, you know, the very narrow pavements and a big roadway. So cars make up most of the space. The people walking and enjoying this space are really confined to the edges of the street. Whereas now, there's lots of places to spill out for people to sit in, for people to walk. There's no cars to be seen. There's lots of new trees. So we talk about the environmental impact of design. You know, it's about creating places where cars are not as important and actually people are, where people can use it. Again, taking you through another space in the town. So these are all the different spaces that we thought are the key areas that we needed to focus on. It goes from a before, where there's car parking spaces and confined seating, and all of the restaurants and bars are confined to small spaces, to our idea, which is allowing spill out for people to sit in, creating pieces of art and greenery. 1 tree, 6 trees is a big difference. And this is what it looks like today. So we go from this, a quite bland and boring space, to what is a place for people to be and sit in. And I just flick through these, and these are about attention to detail. So bringing in features that are going to really make a place improve. So just to talk you through some of the statistics very quickly. It was labelled a ghost town in Altrincham. Now it's the second best place to live in the UK to bring up a family. And this is through our interventions, through us understanding this place and creating it to be a better place for people. Before, very high vacancy rates for shops, little footfall, not many planning applications, to very low vacancy rates. So most of the properties are filled with shops, much higher footfall. So 100,000 more people in December 2016 than there was before we intervened. And again, just flicking through some of these improvements, you see how car dominated this environment is. And now we have much wider pavements for people to sit, lots of new trees. And I'll flick through some of these very quickly just to show you how our project has changed these places. It's gone from being cars and road dominated and squeezed markets to a much more breathable space with lots of greenery. So what are the lessons that we learned from this project? In a nutshell, it's understanding people. It's really making sure that you understand a place and its people before making any suggestions. As a designer, you're not designing for you, a place for you to show off. You're designing it for people to use. You're designing it for people to use and enjoy. And that's really the most important part of our work. It's ensuring that we design a place that people want to use and want to be in. And it's about designing a place that is better for the environment. Because we all know in 50 years time, that's going to be critical. So that's the presentation, and thanks for listening. So I suppose it's probably time for you to ask some questions.
And we have got a lot of questions, Caleb, which is fantastic.
Okay,
what
great.
I'm going to do is, let me just, I'll share my screen just quickly. Yes, so what I'm going to do is put the questions to you, Caleb, in the order of popularity, because that is the way that we do things now. So the most popular question, most number of likes is, what do you do when you mess up or you get something wrong on a subject?
It's a very good question. Usually, the thing is with that we have to be very careful, and I think understanding the scales at which we work is probably important. So I'm an urban designer. So if you look through the process that I just showed you, in terms of how we go from a big scale strategy and idea down to small scale interventions into the street, I work on the big strategic bit of that, the big plan. That's what urban designers do. Whereas landscape architects, they're the ones that do the details, you know, those individual paving stones, the design of those and the streets. So I think first it's about understanding the scale that we go through on a project. But usually when we mess up, we're held to account, because it's usually because someone's tripped over a faulty brick or something like that. But we have to learn from our mistakes, and ultimately that's about, as I say, measuring the success. So has it improved a place is the key thing. Has it improved a place? Has it improved people's enjoyment of a place? And in the most part, that it's about learning from those mistakes. You don't always get everything right, and that's a key life lesson. Not everyone gets everything right, but I think, you know, understanding what people want is the key, and then understanding how people then use the places that you create is the key for learning about how you design the next place and the next project.
Absolutely. Thank you, Caleb. Yeah, obviously practice makes perfect. You
don't always get it right, and that's a key thing. But
and you've got to listen, haven't you, to what people say, and then make it better on the next one. So another popular question from Book. You said near the start, and you've repeated it a lot, actually, it's been a key kind of point, that you need to understand what the people want who are living in these spaces that you're trying to improve. And everyone's got different opinions. So how do you know how to design an enjoyable place when the different definition of enjoyable will vary due to different people's opinions? Again, an easy question.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question. But I think in the most part, this is about how, again, it goes back to that process of understanding people and understanding place. So every project we do, we go through a long and arduous engagement process with the local people, and as part of that, you really must listen to what they want. Now, obviously, as designers, we learn how to design. There's technical things that we must learn and must know in order to design places that will be allowed to go through planning, for example. So there's core parts to our job that we must learn, and that are kind of applicable to every place that we design. There's the technical side of our job. It's what sets us aside from, you know, people that aren't designers, that haven't studied design. So there's things that you have to know, but it's then applying those skills that you learn, the technical skills, to what people want and what people say. You can't please everyone, and that's a key feature. You know, everyone wants something different, but it's about taking what people want in the most part. So what do most people want? What do the majority feel is the right thing to do? It's about really understanding what the majority want in order to go forward, and balancing that with what you know as a designer.
Fair enough, thank you. We've only got a few minutes left, and there are lots of questions. So what I'm going to do is put them to you afterwards, and then perhaps when we post the recording onto either Gmax or onto YouTube, you can put a little blurb underneath, Caleb, with some answers that are kind of to the questions that are coming up.
Of course,
because yeah. I also want to give you a couple of minutes to talk about the project that you have shared with students, if they want to take kind of thinking about urban design a bit further.
Okay. I mean, I could probably answer a very quick question, and that is just how long does it take to complete a project? Because I've seen that come up loads in the feed. It depends on the scale of the project, but if you're looking at something as we work on as an urban designer, for example, so if it's a brand new housing estate, that can be delivered over 20 years, for example. Whereas something like Altrincham, where it's small scale stuff, that can be, say, 3 to 5 years, or different interventions over different periods of time. So you have to plan out a phasing for at what stage each thing is, but they can last for 20, 30 years, some of these projects. They're long-term things. In terms of the project and task that we probably want you guys to look at, we want you to pick a place that's close to you. So that might be your local street, your local park, your school grounds, or your local town centre, any place that you feel passionate about. We want you to try and understand the issues that might be that you might find of that place. What don't you like about it? what do you think other people might not like about it? And then we want you to just quite clearly say how you're going to change that, and that might be just by showing an A3 page or two A3 pages of photos for how you might see that place becoming. What are the key issues? We want you to say what are the things that are a problem with that place, and what do you enjoy about it, and how do you think you might want to change it? And that can be as simple as a set of photos that make the aspiration for what you think that place will be, or it could be a set of drawings if you are more artistic. But we want you to really think about the places that you live and that you work, that you play in and that you walk in, and think about how they work and what you would do to change them. Does that introduce the task well enough, Michelle, or do you feel like we need to cover something?
The idea of the point to say is that if students, in a class or a year group want to do this together in small groups, that would also work, and that Caleb and his colleague Andy are happy to give feedback. So teachers, if you would like your students to get some of that feedback direct from the Planit designers, then please just contact the Bridge email, bridge@greatermanchester.ca.gov.uk, and let us know how many students you are thinking of doing the session with, doing the test with, and then we'll pass that on to Caleb and his colleagues for extra support further down the line. Is that fair to say, Caleb?
Yeah, of course. We're really keen to see this stuff and understand your ideas and give you feedback on it. You're potential urban designers, all of you. So, we want to push you in that direction and send you on your way. So, yeah, we're happy to help and feedback.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Caleb, for your insights today. It was a really interesting presentation, and thank you everybody for coming. The session, as I've said, has been recorded. It will be on YouTube and GMAX as soon as possible. You can keep up to date with the rest of the Careers Week events on gmax.co.uk and on social media. And let me just bring up the slide with the events on it. So there's a lot happening this week, as you can see. So yeah, please do check out some other sessions. And yeah, just thank you so much for all your amazing questions. As I say, we'll get Caleb and his colleagues to have a look at them, and we'll get some answers out to you in some form soon. But yeah, thank you so much, Caleb, and see you all again soon.
Cheers.
Thank you.